Welcome back to the deep dive. If we're really honest, we spend a lot of time searching for simplicity. We really crave it.
Oh, absolutely. That clean verdict,
Yep.
right? Is this good or bad? Friend or foe?
Exactly. Right or wrong, our brains just want that straight line, that easy path through what feels like a really messy world.
And that hunger, that intense desire for clarity, it's not some kind of flaw in us. It's wired in deep.
A survival thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it. The world throws overwhelming amounts of data at us, like every single second. So the brain's default is, well, it's to simplify. Hit the reduction switch.
Find the label, make the quick judgment.
And feel like you've got a handle on the uncertainty. Feel like you're in control.
That's the feeling we're always chasing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Control. But here's the twist, and this is what our sources today are really getting at.
Yeah.
That very instinct, that drive to simplify everything. It might actually be the source of our biggest misunderstandings. We think we're simplifying reality, making it clearer.
But we're not. We're actually distorting it.
Mhm.
Dangerously, sometimes.
The world isn't just messy, it's complex. And those two are really different things.
That's a key distinction. And that distortion, that simplified model we create, it's costly because we end up living in that model, not in the real complex world.
So our mission today really is to try and break free from that binary, that either thinking.
Right. We're diving into what our sources call the paradox of living, and we're going to explore this framework they offer for cultivating what they term nuanced vision.
Yeah, this is a deep dive into some, let's be honest, necessary discomfort. We're asking, how do we stop misreading the world? How do we get comfortable with the idea that complexity isn't a bug?
It's the feature, the fundamental feature of reality.
And the payoff, the reward for getting comfortable with that discomfort.
Yeah.
Once we'll unpack, it's moving beyond that illusion of control.
And actually gaining a real, authentic grip on what's truly happening, what's real and what actually matters.
Okay, so let's dig into this central paradox right away. One of the key analysts in our material, Robert Greene, he really hammers this point home. Nothing in life is simple.
Nothing. Especially people. We demand simplicity. We crave it.
The reality just won't play ball, will it? It refuses to be simple.
And that's the core shift we need to make intellectually. We want those easy labels, hero, villain, good friend, bad influence.
Trustworthy colleague, scheming rival.
Exactly. But Greene insists, and I think experience bears this out, people hold both strength and weakness at the same time.
So someone can be incredibly helpful, maybe brilliant in one area,
Like a strategic genius.
and yet be completely, say, harmful or self-destructive in another part of their life.
Absolutely. Think about it in business or politics. You see these figures all the time. A CEO, maybe, who's a visionary, built a massive company, incredible strategist.
Right. Billions of dollars, huge success.
But then, the sources point out, that same person might be utterly paralyzed by a small emotional conflict. Maybe they can't maintain a stable personal relationship to save their life.
Or they're terrified of speaking in public despite running this huge organization.
Precisely. Their strategic thinking, brilliant. Their emotional self-management, a disaster. And it's not necessarily hypocrisy. That's the key.
It's just human contradiction.
Yes. People hold genuinely mixed feelings, like affection mixed with resentment, confidence shot through with self-doubt. And those mixed states, they inevitably lead to contradictory actions.
Actions that totally baffle anyone who's stuck on finding that single, simple label for them.
And it's not just about judging others, is it? It's looking inwards, too. Understanding our own internal landscape.
Oh, definitely. We search for our one clear emotion when something big happens. Am I happy? Am I sad?
But the sources remind us you can feel overwhelming joy and deep sadness simultaneously. It happens all the time.
Like you get that promotion you worked so hard for.
Yeah, total elation, right?
But then almost immediately you feel the weight of the new responsibilities, the fear of failure.
Exactly. Or you make a big life decision, you're fully committed, but there's still that quiet hum of uncertainty underneath. That mixed, complicated state is the reality. It's not a sign something's wrong.
So that big professional, win the promotion, the book deal, selling the company, it brings joy, sure.
Undeniable joy. But it also instantly brings new problems, crushing responsibilities, maybe higher stakes, more scrutiny.
The positive event contains the seed of difficulty within it.
It does. So if we try to just boil that whole experience down to one simple label, I am happy now, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. We're flattening the richness of it.
We're not just making an intellectual mistake then when we reduce things. We're actively distorting reality. We're creating a convenient lie almost.
And the sources have a strong word for this reduction. They call it a distraction, a significant one.
How so?
Because it lets us feel busy, maybe even feel superior. We've labeled everything. That boss is just a tyrant. That project, hopeless.
Right. Case closed. Move on.
But by slapping on that label, we lose all the context. We stop seeing people in their full, messy, three-dimensional reality.
And we forget that we're just as contradictory ourselves,
Mhm.
constantly changing, full of mixed motives.
Which means we sacrifice actual insight for the comfort of the simple label. We think we're gaining control.
But we're actually losing our grip, losing touch with what's really going on with that person or in that situation.
So this leads us to the solution proposed. Nuanced vision. What does that actually mean in practice? How do we cultivate it?
It sounds demanding.
It requires a certain kind of tolerance, but not tolerance in the sense of just, putting up with something annoying.
Okay.
It's defined as active tolerance. It's about looking with the heart, really perceiving the complexity in others.
The same complexity we know exists inside ourselves, if we're honest.
Exactly. That's the connection.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Say, I get an email, Friday afternoon, of course.
Yeah.
It's worded really aggressively. Not a huge deal, but irritating.
We've all been there.
My immediate instinct, the simple binary response is, okay, this colleague is unprofessional. Or maybe they're trying to undermine me. Label applied.
Right. Villain identified.
So how does nuanced vision step in there?
It asks you to pause, hold that judgment, and instead ask, what contradictory truths might be operating here?
Okay, like what?
Well, maybe the email was objectively aggressive and rude. That can be true. And maybe the colleague is dealing with a major personal crisis at home you know nothing about.
Okay.
And maybe they are actually brilliant at certain parts of their job. And maybe they're terrified of missing this particular deadline and are acting out of that fear.
So multiple things can be true at once. They don't cancel each other out.
Precisely. It's not either. It's usually both hand.
So if I can hold those possibilities, I stop wasting my energy on feeling righteous and angry over the weekend.
Which achieves nothing, right? Except maybe poisoning your own time off?
And I shift that energy towards perception instead, towards understanding. I realize that they aren't just a villain, or a saint for that matter. They're a whole person juggling their own internal stuff and external pressures.
And seeing that completely reframes how you might respond come Monday morning, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I could address the tone of the email,
Yeah.
sure, but without condemning the entire person based on that one interaction.
Exactly. You move from reacting to a simple, likely inaccurate label to responding thoughtfully to the full, complex reality of the person and the situation.
And that practice, doing that in these small moments day after day,
Yeah.
that's how you build this muscle of nuanced vision.
That's the idea. It's a practice, not a switch you just flip. Now, if this tendency to simplify, to use binary labels, is problematic in general, our sources argue it becomes downright catastrophic when we apply it to the people closest to us.
Our intimates, our partners, family, closest friends.
Yes. And why is it so damaging here? Because these relationships are foundational to our sense of self, to our security.
So we demand simplicity from them, above all else. We need them to be uncomplicated.
We really do. We need our friends to be purely loyal, always supportive. We need our partners to be entirely trustworthy, completely predictable.
And when they deviate from that simple script, when they show their own complexity or contradiction,
We experience it as a crisis, a betrayal,
Yep.
often, because our simple model of who they are suddenly shatters.
and the crisis happens because we fight against the truth, don't we? The truth that people don't just neatly park their contradictions at the door when they enter our lives.
No, they bring their whole complex selves. That friend whose words are always, always supportive on the surface, they might genuinely harbor some subconscious resentment.
Maybe jealousy, or some
they-
unmet need in the friendship they haven't articulated, maybe even to themselves.
Could be. And they might not even be fully aware of it. It's not necessarily conscious deception.
And the reverse is true too, isn't it? This is the really painful part. The person who does violate a trust, who lets you down profoundly, they might simultaneously care about you very deeply, genuinely.
Oof. That's the agony right there. That contradiction. They weren't necessarily pretending to care before or pretending to be trustworthy.
They just contained both things at once.
Mm-hmm.
The capacity for love and the capacity for causing hurt.
Exactly. Both the affection and maybe the antagonism or the weakness or the self-interest, all residing in the same person, often in conflict.
We almost need a specific word for that feeling, don't we? When the deepest love and the deepest wound come from the very same person.
It's a unique kind of pain. And the sources actually point us towards ancient wisdom here, reminding us this isn't some new modern problem. The psalmist captured this perfectly.
Ah, yes, the quote about betrayal. It's incredibly powerful.
It really is. It is not an enemy who taunts me, then I could bear it.
Because you expect that from an enemy, you're prepared for it.
Right. But it is you, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend.
That's the devastating part, the familiarity. The closeness is not an attack from outside the walls. It's a crumbling from within the inner circle.
The source of the wound is what makes it almost unbearable. It's realizing that the person you relied on, the one whose words maybe felt so smooth, so reassuring,
Smoother than butter.
yet war was in his heart. They carried that internal conflict, that contradiction, right into the relationship with you.
And maybe they couldn't even control it. Their own complexity ended up causing the damage.
Often, yes. And this is where the really hard work comes in, but also the really rewarding work, holding opposing truths together.
What does that look like in practice?
It's the ability to hold the truth that someone did hurt you, maybe terribly, while simultaneously holding the possibility that they didn't intend the full measure of harm you experienced.
That's tough. Because the pain feels incredibly intentional in the moment.
Of course it does. Or another example, recognizing that a new opportunity, maybe a new relationship or a job, is both incredibly exciting and genuinely frightening. And those two feelings are both valid. They don't cancel each other out.
Okay, so mastering this,
Yeah.
this capacity to see the complexity, not just a simple good guy, bad guy story.
What does it gain us? We stop wasting enormous amounts of energy constructing these false, simplified narratives about what happened and why.
Narratives that usually make us the victim or the hero.
Usually. And instead, we gain the emotional maturity, the nuanced vision to respond to reality as it actually is, to the person as they actually are, contradictions and all, not just reacting to our preferred story about them.
Which, thinking about it, leads directly into the ultimate relationship paradox, the nature of love itself.
Yes. Because true love, according to this framework we're exploring, isn't just simple reassurance or constant affirmation.
It's not just you're perfect.
No. It requires holding two seemingly contradictory truths together at the same time. Unconditional acceptance and aspirational demand.
Wow. Okay, unpack that.
You read-
Because usually we think of acceptance and demand as opposites, enemies even.
Right. Acceptance says, you are enough, exactly as you are right now with all your flaws and strengths. I accept you.
Which sounds lovely.
Eh.
Essential even.
It is essential. It's the foundation. But if acceptance is the only thing present in a relationship, what happens?
Things stay the same, maybe get a bit stagnant.
Exactly. The relationship stagnates. It becomes a settling for the status quo. It can even become enabling, preventing growth by never challenging limitations. We choose comfort over growth.
Okay, so acceptance alone isn't enough for deep, true love.
Which is why it needs the other side, the aspirational demand. This is the tough love aspect. It says, I believe you can become more than you currently are. I see your potential, and I expect you to strive towards it.
I won't let you settle for less than you're capable of.
Precisely. And this is crucial if you only have the demand. If it's constant pushing, constant criticism aimed at growth without that bedrock of acceptance.
Then it's not love either. It feels like oppression, like you're never good enough.
Exactly. It creates a constant feeling of inadequacy, of failing to measure up. There's no safety, no ground to stand on.
So the sources draw a distinction here, like between a fan and a coach.
That's a great analogy they use. A fan loves you unconditionally, claps regardless, just wants you to feel good. A great coach also has deep affection, believes in you unconditionally, but because they believe in you, they demand your absolute best. They push you. They see the potential you haven't realized yet.
So true love has to be both. It has to honor the reality of who the person is right now. Faults, struggles, triumphs, everything.
While also fiercely believing in and demanding movement towards their greater potential, holding both.
And the moment we collapse that tension, that paradox, we fall into just pure acceptance or just pure demand.
That's the moment we stop loving in the fullest sense. We stop seeing the whole complex, growing person. We've simplified them again.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about complexity and how we see others and ourselves and in relationships. Now, what about complexity in terms of taking action in the world?
Ah, yes, the paradox of action. And the sources identify something super common here, something they call the waiting room trap.
The waiting room trap. I think I know what this is. It's that feeling of waiting, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Waiting for motivation to strike, waiting for perfect clarity on what to do, waiting until we feel ready or confident or passionate before we actually start doing the hard thing.
We treat passion like it's this hidden treasure chest we have to find first.
Right. And once we find it, then all the energy and direction will magically appear.
So we spent ages introspecting, navel-gazing, searching for the feeling, refining the plan.
Well, life just keeps ticking by. We're waiting to feel like the kind of person who takes bold action instead of just taking the action and letting the feelings follow.
But the core truth the sources hammer home here goes completely against that intuition, doesn't it?
Completely. It's action precedes feeling, not the other way around.
Action comes first.
Yes. This is like a fundamental law of psychological inertia, or maybe overcoming inertia. You don't wait until you feel motivated to go to the gym or write that difficult email or start the daunting project.
Because if you wait for the feeling, you might wait forever.
You might. You have to do the difficult thing first, even when you don't feel like it. And then the feelings, the motivation, the clarity, sometimes even the inspiration or sense of accomplishment, they shift in response to the action. The momentum builds itself.
The sources use some great physical metaphors for this, like the swimmer.
Yeah, the swimmer doesn't stand by the pool waiting to feel warm and comfortable about diving into icy water.
No, she dives in, and her body chemistry literally changes, adapts to the shock, starts generating heat.
Exactly. Or the professional writer. They don't wait for the muse to whisper in their ear before they sit down.
No, they show up. They put in the time at the desk, whether they feel inspired or not. And often, the inspiration emerges from the act of writing itself, not before it.
The practice generates the feeling. The action generates the motivation.
And this principle, they argue, is crucial for finding purpose, too. If you feel stuck, lost, endlessly searching for your one true passion.
Stop looking inward so much. Stop the navel gazing. The advice is, turn your gaze outwards.
Look around you.
Yes, what problems actually need solving right here, right now? What concrete needs are unmet in your community, your workplace, your family? Engage with those.
So purpose isn't found in abstract searching, but in concrete doing.
Exactly. Your deeper sense of purpose, your passion even, often reveals itself through active, tangible engagement with the world and its problems, not through prolonged isolation and introspection.
That makes a lot of sense. We're wired for utility, for solving problems, not just for feeling good. Okay, so if action is the engine that changes our feelings, what fuels the engine?
Now we hit the inner paradox. Because the sources argue that effective outward action actually requires foundational inner stillness.
Action needs stillness. That sounds contradictory again.
It does, but this part of the material is a really powerful critique of, well, modern life.
How so?
We live in a civilization that seems dedicated, almost obsessed with eliminating empty time. Every spare second has to be filled.
Screens, notifications, podcasts, music, social media, constant input.
Constant stimulation. Look at how we overschedule kids' lives. Look at our own chronic restlessness as adults. We seem terrified of deceleration, of simply being unoccupied.
We treat boredom like it's the enemy, like it's a void that needs to be instantly filled. If I sit down and have 2 minutes of quiet, my hand just automatically reaches for my phone. It's almost unconscious.
It is. But the sources push back hard against this. They insist boredom is not empty. It's generative.
Generative, meaning it creates something.
Yes. It's the creative void. It's the necessary mental space, the quiet, where authentic, unprompted desires can actually surface.
Things you wouldn't think of if you were constantly distracted.
Exactly. It's the only time the mind really has the bandwidth to make unexpected connections between ideas, to process unresolved emotional stuff doubly under the surface.
And crucially, maybe to figure out what you actually think about something, rather than just echoing the last opinion you consumed.
Precisely. Free from the constant barrage of external input.
I have to push back a little here, though, because the modern world does demand speed. Constant responsiveness feels necessary just to keep up. If I deliberately cultivate boredom and stillness, are I just going to fall behind? How do the sources square that circle?
That's a fair challenge, and a common one. The sources would likely argue that you're mistaking frantic motion for actual progress. You're confusing distraction with productivity.
Explain that.
Like the stillness isn't meant to be a permanent state of withdrawal. It's not about delaying action indefinitely. It's about preparing for better action. A mind that cannot tolerate boredom, that cannot sit in stillness, is fundamentally a chaotic mind.
Because it's just reacting, bouncing from one stimulus to the next.
Exactly. It's reacting to every external demand, every notification, every fleeting thought, rather than being able to calmly prioritize and focus on what truly matters.
So the person who takes, say, even just 5 minutes of genuine, quiet contemplation before tackling a complex problem, they might actually end up being more efficient and precise.
That's the argument. More focused, more creative, less prone to knee-jerk reactions than the person who just jumps straight in, fueled by that chronic inner restlessness.
Okay, so the ability to be truly alone with yourself, mentally present, without needing constant distraction, that's not a luxury, it's foundational.
It's foundational to everything else. You probably value deep focus, empathy, which requires quieting your own noise to hear others, creative problem solving, strategic thinking. All of it rests on that ability to tolerate stillness.
It makes me think of that Pascal quote they referenced.
Oh, it's so relevant. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
It sounds extreme, but maybe he was onto something. This constant flight from boredom, from ourselves.
It's literally a flight from self-knowledge. We avoid the quiet because we might not like who we meet there or what unresolved issues surface.
So the paradox resolves. We need stillness, not as an escape from action, but as the necessary source of intentional, effective action. We need boredom to clear the noise so we can discover the authentic drives, the passion, that fuels meaningful effort.
Beautifully put. Stillness enables focus, and focused action creates momentum. Okay, so let's take this comfort with complexity, this idea of nuanced vision, and apply it where the rubber really meets the road: performance under pressure.
Right. When things get chaotic, when the external world is turbulent, a crisis at work, a family emergency, high-stakes negotiation, that's when internal calm is most valuable.
Absolutely essential. But crucially, this calm we're talking about isn't about ignoring the complexity or pretending the chaos isn't happening.
It's not denial.
No. It's about having developed the internal capacity to hold all the messy, contradictory details of the situation, the danger, the potential opportunity, the knowns, the unknowns, without getting completely overwhelmed and shutting down.
Because you've practiced holding opposing truths in smaller moments.
Exactly. When you practice nuanced vision regularly, your default response in a crisis isn't panic or wishful thinking or just freezing up.
You can see the situation more clearly, maybe, in all its, as you said, contradictory glory.
Yes. And because you can see it more clearly, you can choose a response that's thoughtful, that's proportional to the reality, instead of just having a knee-jerk emotional reaction.
I can really picture the difference between two types of thinkers in that high-pressure moment. The binary thinker, the one who needs things to be win-lose, use them total control or total chaos.
What happens to them when the pressure cooker environment shatters their simple model?
They become brittle, right? They don't have flexibility. They seem to only have two modes left, either paralyzing panic because they've lost control.
Or they double down even harder on rigid, simplistic strategies that clearly aren't working because it's the only way they know how to operate.
Whereas the person who's comfortable with ambiguity, with nuance,
They remain flexible, they stay creative, they're more responsive to changing information. Why? Because they can hold multiple, even conflicting truths simultaneously.
like they can accept, okay, this situation is objectively bad and it's risky. And at the same time, they can hold the thought, but there might be a creative solution hidden within this mess. Let's look for it.
Exactly. Their internal state isn't entirely dependent on the external environment being simple and predictable. They can navigate the complexity because they've accepted complexity as the norm.
So that internal calm isn't just a personality trait you're born with. It's something you have to cultivate.
Day by day. By resisting the urge to oversimplify in the small moments, you build the muscle needed for the big ones.
And that muscle seems really necessary when we confront another area full of complexity, our own perceived limitations.
Oh, absolutely. We all carry around these stories about ourselves, don't we? Stories that often feel like protection, like realistic self-assessment.
This is just who I am. I'm not a math person. I'm awkward with new people.
Yeah.
I've probably gone as far as I can in my career.
They feel true. They feel like honest appraisals based on past experience. But the sources argue these stories are often actually imprisoning us.
Locking us into a past, limited version of ourselves, preventing future growth.
And they reference the Bruce Lee principle here, which I find fascinating.
What's that?
He basically said that the limits you accept in one area of your life, say you decide you've reached your physical limit in athletics, those limits don't stay contained.
They spread.
They inevitably bleed over into other areas. That belief about your physical limits subtly reinforces limits in your work, your relationships, your willingness to try new creative things. The limits become self-fulfilling prophecies across your entire life.
Wow, that's a powerful idea. The stories we tell ourselves about our limitations become our reality.
Which makes it absolutely critical to distinguish between a genuine plateau and a self-imposed ceiling.
Okay, explain that difference.
Yeah.
Because plateaus feel real.
Plateaus are real, they're temporary states. A plateau isn't your ultimate limit, it's not a final destination. Think of it as a temporary equilibrium point.
A place where your current level of effort, your current skills, have sort of met their match for now. You've achieved a certain level of mastery, but progress has stalled.
Exactly, it's a natural part of growth. But the mistake we make is assuming the plateau is the ceiling, that it's the end of the road.
We reach that level in fitness, learning a language, growing a business, and we think, okay, I guess that's it for me. This must be my natural limit.
And we stop pushing. We accept the plateau as permanent.
So what should we do on a plateau?
Realize it's a signal. It's a time to gather strength, yes, but more importantly, it's a time to change the input. Look for new methods, different coaching, maybe change your environment, introduce structured rest and recovery. You have to change how you're doing things.
You can't just keep doing the same thing harder and expect a different result indefinitely.
Exactly. To break through the plateau, you have to alter the approach. And this, again, loops back to that action before feeling rule.
You don't wait until you feel capable of breaking through.
No. You act as if you're capable. You implement the new method. You endure the discomfort of trying something different, even if it feels awkward or harder at first. And through that action, you discover the capacity to move beyond the plateau.
This whole struggle against limits, against settling for plateaus, it gains a really sharp focus when we bring in what the sources call deathbed clarity.
Yes. Using the perspective of the end to illuminate the present. Mark Twain is quoted here.
A master of paradox himself.
Indeed. And he offers this profound, slightly counterintuitive insight. He asks, what will we actually regret when we look back from the end of our lives?
And it's not what we might expect. It's not the failed business venture or the time we tried something and looked foolish or the investment that tanked.
No. He pinpointed two main regrets, that we loved too little and that we traveled too little.
Okay, let's interpret that through the lens of complexity. Love too little. Does that mean we held back emotionally?
I think so. We stayed safe. We stayed in judgment, maybe only seeing people through those simple binary lenses we talked about. Villain, hero. Trustworthy, untrustworthy.
We refused the vulnerability, the messiness, the sheer effort required to truly engage with another person's full, contradictory, sometimes frightening complexity.
Yes. We kept them, and maybe ourselves, at arm's length to avoid the potential pain or confusion of real intimacy.
And traveled too little. Is that just about plane tickets?
I think it's broader than that. It's metaphorical, too. It means we played it safe, generally. We stayed within our comfortable routines, our known zones.
We waited for the perfect time, the guarantee of success, the feeling of certainty before stepping out. We let caution win over courage.
Exactly. We let fear and the desire for simple predictability masquerade as prudence or responsibility. So, both core regrets Twain identifies. They stem from the same root error, don't they?
Simplification and withdrawal. We fail to engage with life, with people, in their full, messy, unpredictable, complex reality.
The wisdom here isn't promoting recklessness. It's not saying ignore all risks.
No, it's more like a recalibration of risk. Recognizing that the biggest risk might be staying too safe.
And recognizing that discomfort isn't always a signal to retreat. Very often, that feeling of discomfort, of uncertainty, of slight fear, it's actually a signal that you're getting closer to something real, something meaningful.
Meaning lives in those uncertain spaces. The vulnerability needed for deep relationships, the step into the unknown career path, the challenging conversation.
That seems to be the message. The places where simple answers fail us are often the places where the most profound growth and meaning reside. So all these threads embracing complexity, action before feeling, stillness, love's paradox, challenging limits they all weave together, leading us to a final, crucial paradox.
Which is?
Achieving a kind of autonomy and independence within our undeniable dependence on the world and on others.
Okay, that sounds important. We absolutely need other people for
Yep.
love, support, growth, even just survival. We need the world for resources, opportunities.
We are fundamentally interconnected and reliant. That's true. And yet, the sources argue, We simultaneously need to cultivate the capacity to bring our own internal state, our own light, if you will, to any situation,
Regardless of what the external conditions are like.
regardless of whether the environment is supportive or hostile, warm or cold, calm or chaotic.
This is what the sources call internal sovereignty.
Exactly. And it's really important to clarify what this isn't. It's not about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending things aren't difficult or painful when they are.
It's not plastering a fake smile on everything.
No. It's something much deeper. It's about achieving a kind of radical freedom from being entirely dictated to, entirely controlled by your external circumstances.
It's the ability to choose your internal response.
Yes. To carry your own peace into a chaotic meeting. To bring genuine curiosity to a difficult, potentially hostile conversation. To maintain your own warmth and composure even when faced with coldness or criticism. Because your internal state is self-generated, not just a reaction to the outside world.
And that freedom, that sovereignty, it's not just something you decide to have. It has to be cultivated.
It's the outcome. It's the fruit of consistently practicing all the earlier steps we've discussed.
Sitting with complexity instead of fleeing to simple labels. Taking action even when uncertain. Embracing boredom and stillness to find your own center. Holding the tension in love. Challenging your perceived limits.
All those seemingly difficult practices are what build this internal resilience, this sovereignty.
So it's the synthesis of everything. We can almost boil down this whole framework into a set of core principles or maybe rules for living a more meaningful, complex life.
Let's try. Rule number 1.
Embrace complexity. Assume reality is complex. Assume people are contradictory. If your understanding feels simple, it's probably incomplete. Lean into the nuance.
Good. Second.
Action precedes feeling. Don't wait for motivation or certainty. Just begin. Do the work. And the energy, the clarity, the feeling will often follow the action. Boredom is generative. Stillness is foundational. Stop fighting empty time. Use solitude to disconnect from external noise and connect with your own authentic thoughts and desires.
Fourth.
Love requires holding opposites. True connection needs both unconditional acceptance, you are enough now, and aspirational demand, I believe you can be more. Don't collapse the paradox.
Yeah.
Limits are often stories, not walls. Plateaus are temporary resting places, not permanent ceilings. See them as signals to change your approach, gather strength, and push beyond.
And the final one, tying back to Twain.
Choose courage over caution. Remember the deathbed perspective. You'll likely regret withdrawal, simplification, and playing it too safe far more than you'll regret engagement, vulnerability, and embracing complexity.
That sums it up pretty well, and it highlights the core choice we face.
Which is facing the paradox of living head-on. The simple path feels easier, safer in the moment. But the sources argue it ultimately leads to misunderstanding, stagnation, frustration, and deep regret.
While the complex path, the one that demands we tolerate ambiguity, sit with discomfort, hold contradictions, feels harder initially.
But it's the only road, they suggest, to genuine wisdom, authentic connection, and a truly meaningful life.
So the fundamental question for you, the listener, isn't if life is paradoxical. It just is. That's settled.
The real question is, will you develop the capacity, the skill, the courage to live well within that inherent paradox?
Or will you spend your energy trying to flee from it, constantly seeking refuge in those brittle, ultimately unsatisfying simplifications?
The invitation here is clear. Choose complexity. Choose nuance. Choose action, stillness, growth. Choose love in its full, messy, contradictory richness.
And perhaps a final thought to reflect on, a concluding metaphor from the sources. Can you learn to see the entire mountain reflected in one single pebble?
Meaning, see the universal truths, the grand patterns, and the small, specific moments in people.
Yes. And simultaneously, can you see that single, unique pebble as a vital, irreplaceable part of the vast, complex mountain?
Holding both perspectives at once. The individual significance and the universal connection. That balance.
What does that demanding balance look like in your life and your choices right now? That's where your own deep dive, your own practice begins.